when you mention with the Master Olympia now coming up in Japan with Kai Greene, for instance, uh, is that something? Because I heard him say it in different places that he would need to. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but it sounded like he wants to get paid to do the show. Is that something the Olympia brand would consider doing? Paying an athlete to compete
No,
at the Master Olympia?
no.
No.
And I'll tell you this, Kai's a good friend. Kai actually trains at the gym I train at, Wolf Gym in Boca
Should
Raton,
see
Florida.
him every
And,
day.
and Kai trains as hard as anybody. He comes in that gym 2 or 3 times a day, and he is at it as if he is in full force on a full force mission for something. I'm not exactly sure what, but I think he just loves being a bodybuilder. He loves training,
Yeah.
and Kai's doing great, and I have so much respect for Kai. But we're not paying anybody to compete in the show. You can't do it, and I'm going to explain why. Because the minute you do that, you're creating a competitive imbalance. And by that, I mean, if another athlete in the lineup got wind that he was competing against, he or she were competing against somebody who was paid to be in that show, right? All of a sudden, it creates an economic dynamic, right? Where people would then question the outcome of the show. So it creates a competitive integrity problem if you open that door to start paying individual athletes to come and compete. Now, we give prize money and they're there to earn their prize money. But just imagine for a second, let's just say somebody, because a lot of times I've heard in the past that people talk about these deals where somebody gets a guarantee, right? They're going to get a guarantee. So, in other words, somebody's going to get a $300,000 guarantee, win or lose, be paid to do that show. So take the Olympia, for example. Let's just say that guy wins the show. The
Mm.
fans could then be left to feel, well, of course he won the show because he was guaranteed to get a certain amount of money. And then, so then it became an economic benefit to the event to make sure that, well, he better win that first place prize because we already have to pay him that money anyway, right?
Mm.
So if you do things like that, you create a disruption of competitive integrity, and we would never do that. It would not be fair for one athlete to stand next to another athlete in a first call out, knowing that the guy standing next to him was paid to be there. It would create all kinds of issues, and the list goes on. There's many other issues that come with that. The other economic reality is that getting back to the 2019 Olympia, where I just mentioned the idea about a lot of the big names didn't show up and we still sold out. What we have learned, and this is great news for all of us who love bodybuilding, the Olympia, the title, it's bigger than any one competitor. It always has been. The Olympia thrived when Arnold stopped competing. The Olympia thrived when Ronnie Coleman stopped competing. The Olympia thrived when Jay Cutler stopped competing. These are some of the most famous, iconic bodybuilders of all time. And the show continued to grow and continued to grow. And that's important to remember because no matter what, no matter who's the champion, as much as I respect the champions, as much as we all have our favorites, um, when they move on, it has not shown to have any economic ramification on the growth of the lifestyle and on the growth of the sport. So it doesn't even make good business sense to open a world where you start paying. And then if you start paying somebody, then somebody else is going to start negotiating and they're not going to show up because they're going to feel disrespected and it's going to go on and on and on and on. And you know what's going to start to be affected? Prize money is going to start being affected. Travel benefits are going to start being affected. Production value is going to start being affected because the money is just going to run out and it will create a very disadvantageous environment. So don't look for that anytime soon.
Mm. But this Olympia, is this a little bit more because we have four Olympia winners? Four Olympia winners. We have figure first time ever Sidney Gillen. We will have a new title after 8 years. We have Bumstead. We will have is that 7 times he won it in a row? Wasn't it?
Six.
Six
So
times.
we have a new champion in classic. But this Derek Lunsford, Hardy, Brandon Curry, Samson, with Martin Fitzwater now looking dangerous, and Nick Walker coming back. This is gonna be it's easy sell this Olympia, isn't it?
The depth of this year's Olympia is
Oof.
wild, isn't it? It's really a tough one. And it's crazy because not only do you have the depth,
Every
but you have
class.
what's that?
In every class with Ali
Yeah,
Bilal,
but
Brian
even in the open,
Terry.
let's talk about the open for a second, AJ.
Yeah.
When you look at the open, not only do you have the depth, but you also have a champion that just showed that he's beatable, right?
Yeah.
So you have the dynamic of Samson having just gotten beaten by Derek. And let's also remember when Derek won the title the year before last, we thought he was going to win it for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And and he's still very much in his competitive prime. Derek's a young bodybuilder, right? He still has young muscle and he's still in that improvement phase. And I don't mind saying this, in my opinion, Hadi Chupan is the most dangerous bodybuilder in the world in terms of what he can be. There are few guys on the planet that have as many um, physique weapons as Hadi Chupan. He is a tremendous bodybuilder, probably one of my favorites of all time. It's so funny when these events are over and oftentimes, when Hadi doesn't win and people blow up my DM and
Politics, politics.
they give me what people don't realize is Hadi Chupan might be my favorite bodybuilder. And when
Yeah.
you're in my position, you're not supposed to say things like that.
No.
But there's something about Hadi and the way he carries himself. Even when people gave him a hard time when he ran off stage a year or two back after he was defeated and he just stormed off stage. If people understood how hard a guy like Hadi Chupan worked to get to that moment, the pressure that's put upon him in his country, the way the Iranian fans rally behind him, it's more than bodybuilding there. It is a deep personal journey that he's on with the people that live in his region. It is personal. There's a lot of pressure. So I would caution anybody not to be so critical on what Hadi Chupan was feeling in those moments. And until you walk in a man's shoes, especially Hadi Chupan's, don't judge. Um, I can appreciate the passion and I can appreciate the anger and the frustration. This is real. This is heavy. This is an all-consuming experience. And he expected to win that day and he didn't. And he was frustrated and he expressed that. And you know what? That's okay because we all have those moments. We do. We all have those moments. In most of the world's cases, they get to do it in private where people don't see those moments. But he was out there for the world to see and he wore his heart on his sleeve. And he deserves the respect that comes with that reaction. And I had no problem with the way he felt.
Yeah.
Um, and at the end of the day, on that particular night, Derek was the better bodybuilder, and Derek won. And Samson, of course, won this past year. And I'm excited to see what Hadi comes back with. But those three guys, and then you didn't even mention Andrew Jack earlier. He's another guy who can be very much in the mix. Let's remember when Ronnie Coleman won it in 1998,
Yeah.
we all showed up expecting Flex
Let's
and some
do.
other guys to compete. Ronnie had been ninth the year before,
Yeah.
right? So it's not unprecedented that a guy like Andrew Jack couldn't show up and just beat all these guys, or Nick Walker. So yeah, this year's Olympia lineup is going to be great. I'm excited to see, Mike Sommerfeld in the classic division. That's going to be really exciting. Ryan and Ali going at it in the men's physique division. That's going to be a great showdown among other contenders in that division as well. Laura Lee coming back and trying to win a back-to-back bikini title, which hasn't happened in a few years. It's really, and Keon has been, a lot of people feel like Keon has the best physique in the
Oh,
world. There's people that feel that
Ian,
way.
it's going to be hard to beat. It's going to be
Right.
hard for Clarida to beat him.
Sure. So
Yeah.
it's going to be a great Olympia and Andrea Shaw coming back to try to win another title. And, I'm sure I'm leaving a few divisions out, but it really is a stacked event and there's a lot to be excited for this year for sure.
Yeah.
Exactly. I definitely feel, look, the men's physique, we've got four Olympia champions. We've got Jeremy Brundier coming back. Brandon is looking to tie Jeremy's
Yep.
record. Ryan is looking to tie Brandon's record. Aaron Banks is out to prove to everyone that he is the face of men's physique. And of course, Ali Blau has just come from the Arnold's win. He's off to Pittsburgh and New York. And of course, bikini. Bikini, don't anyone forget about this one. We got five Olympia champions. Jennifer Dory's back. Maureen's back. Laura Lee look to defend. Ashley Colwasser just ignoring the clock. She's going for four. And of course Elise is back as well. There's a reason why I mentioned about these two divisions. Because these two divisions have got the most number of competitors already qualified for the Olympia 2025. And we've seen it before in 2024, 2023. They always have record numbers. This has been a conversation within the NPC IPB in regards to the volume of competitors that go to Olympia. It's been a hot topic with you've probably seen as well from the crowd and people on social media that they do say that certain classes are too long due to the volume of competitors. Steve Weinberg on one podcast with I can't remember who it was specifically, Frank Sepe, and he mentioned about in the elimination round.
Mm.
I'm keen to hear your thoughts on, do you see it being an issue, the volume of competitors? And if so, what have the conversations been like that could hopefully overcome this hurdle?
Yeah, it is a challenge, and with growth comes challenges, right? And we talk about that with Jim and Tyler and with Jake. It is a topic that we spend a lot of time on because it has a huge impact, not just on the flow of production, because we recognize that the length of these shows are long, and there's not a whole lot we can do about it. Um, but it is an issue, but it's an issue that we embrace. Now, of course, the prejudging structure allows us to work through the show, right? So by the time you get to the evening show, there's only a finite number of athletes that are going to be doing their routines anyway. So if there's 1,000 people in the show or 300 people in the show, the night show should not be affected from a runtime standpoint significantly. The challenge is also the number of divisions as well, because the number of divisions is ultimately what lengthens the duration of the show. But the number of divisions is critical because we're all trying to get more participation in the sport. So when we introduce new divisions for new body types and new objectives, we're also bringing in a new community of people to become a part of our environment, of our sport. So that's important also. So um, and then also when somebody spends the money to come to the Olympia as a fan, we want to make sure to the best that we can that they get a chance to see the person they came to root for, right? We don't want a situation or um, the president of someone's fan club shows up in Las Vegas to watch their favorite competitor compete and they don't get to see them because they've somehow been cut or eliminated before the show even occurs, right? So there's no perfect utopian plan to solve this riddle. It really is something that we spend a lot of time on. We do value the growth of the sport. And if the price that we have to pay for the growth of the sport is to have more competitors qualifying for the Olympia, then as much as this might not be the popular response, it's the responsible response because we do always want to grow participation in this sport, in this lifestyle. And since the system is built where an NPC athlete aspires to be nationally qualified, and if they are good enough to be nationally qualified, and if at a national level event they get a pro card, then once they become a pro, then they have an opportunity to win a pro show and be Olympia qualified. The entire flow, the entire system is built towards making it to the mountaintop, the Olympia stage. That's what the entire model of what we do is built around. So if we go ahead and we start cutting that down, we then diminish everything below us. So we have to be respectful of that too. There's contest promoters all over the world that are incredibly proud of their ability to send athletes and qualify them for the Olympia. So we have to make sure that we are sensitive to everyone's individual interests. I realize as fans, we want to get in and out and that sort of thing. And there are things that we are looking at. There have been think tanks formed in which we have tried to collaborate on discussing some ways to streamline the process, to create something that isn't overwhelming from a volume and athlete volume standpoint. And I think we're going to get there. There's a few things that we're tinkering with, and we might have something to talk about soon. But for now, we're in growth mode. And sometimes in order to grow, there are some growing pains. And if the biggest growing pain that we have to deal with is that the Olympia lineup is getting a little bit too big, then I'm afraid that that's a price that we have to pay for now.
Because that imagine, as you said, you have a pro qualifier. I mean, Olympia qualifier. Meaning, a lot of these shows worldwide, it's not the big prize money, but it's the goal to go to the Olympia. And
Right.
you win Bulgaria Pro or whatever as a bikini girl, and you make it finally. Your dream is to be at Olympia, and you have your whole family flying there, and then you can't step on stage because you lose elimination round because fans are crying it's too long. That's gonna imagine the pain of an athlete the whole life dreaming of going to the Olympia, and you
Yeah.
can't step up because fans are
Well,
crying it's too long.
AJ, you just summarized my job in a nutshell, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because unfortunately, it is my job to make choices that sometimes aren't always popular. I'll give you an example. So there is a subsection of the bodybuilding community, the bodybuilding purists. that if it were up to them, every bodybuilding show would have a black curtain in the background and a couple spotlights on every physique, and there would be no production value. It would be pure, clean presentation of the physiques, right? And I respect that because I'm a bodybuilding fan. I came up a bodybuilding fan. I understand the importance of seeing all the granular detail within the framework of a physique. I get that. We all understand that. So there's those people, and those folks will come, those folks will watch the Olympia, and they might complain that the stage is too busy, or there's too much sensory overload, or the lights are too bright, or the volume is too loud, or something along those lines. The contrasts aren't optimal for showcasing the physique in the best way. So there's those people, and I respect those opinions. But then there's the opinion of the CEO of major companies who come to the Olympia and sit there and they watch the caliber of stage production that we put on. They watch the way that we showcase our lifestyle, our sport in the most profoundly impactful, visceral level. And they see it. And when the show is over and they come up to me or Jake or any of us, and they are blown away by how far the sport has come, and they want to now be a part of the sport, and they want to invest in the sport. They want to sponsor, they want to exhibit, they want to be a part of this world. When major celebrities show up to the Olympia and when the night is over, I say, man, you stayed till the end. That's amazing, because a lot of celebrities, when they do things, they leave early. They come in, they sit for 10 minutes and they leave. But when they come to the Olympia, they stay for the entire night. And I'll say, hey, you stayed to the entire night. They go, oh, we didn't want it to end. This show was off the charts. It was like a concert environment. And now, as a result, they come back year in and year out. And when they do come back, they tell that to their fans, their followers. They connect. Influencers show up and they experience what we're doing. And they go back home and they tell their followers about it. And it grows our sport. And that's a priority for me, is growth. So, well, on one hand, we hear the critics gripe about the need for a black curtain backdrop. And I get it. I do. Don't think I don't understand that thinking. But the responsibility of the Olympia is to serve as a beacon of growth. And the choices that we make, the choices that I make every single time, are geared towards the growth of prize money, the growth of production value, the growth of participation, the growth of the audience. And those are the choices that we make. So, with respect to the guy who wants the black curtain in the background, and I totally feel you, and this will be a great soundbite for you, because I'm sure this is going to get a lot of response because this is a hot topic, and I appreciate that. But understand that my responsibility is to grow this sport, and the choices that we make, the caliber of production that we are putting on, I know for certain, without any degree of speculation, that it is bringing more horsepower into our community. Sponsorship, exhibitorship, celebrity connection, influencer connection. They are showing up. They are a part of it because we are taking things to another level. And if that means that the separation between an athlete's glutes and hamstring might be muted a little bit by an aggressive laser or a spotlight, then that's a price that we are willing to pay, because we have to grow the sport. If people want to make more money in this sport, if people want to have more opportunities in this lifestyle, if people want to see this continue to grow the way that I do, the way that Arnold does, the way that Jake does, the way that Jim and Tyler do, we have to make choices that are going to attract more people into this lifestyle.
Dan, you mentioned about growing the sport, and 100%, I completely understand that perspective in regards to the importance of the stage production. The other aspect as well, we spoke about global and about reaching more people. You guys operate a pay-per-view model. Has there been conversations about partnering with a streaming service? We see Chris Bumstead's documentary, we're going on a streaming service very soon. We know Dorian Yates, Phil Heath, Lee Priest have been on Amazon Prime. Two questions really. Are you able to disclose maybe a rough number of the pay-per-view buys you guys had in 2024? And secondly, what is the future looking like on maybe using a streaming service like a Netflix, like an Amazon Prime?
It's
Olympia, the
interesting.
Netflix. That would be
The
something.
the topic has come up, and we've had those conversations, and those deals will happen. But a lot of people are quick to talk about wanting us to be, popular like the UFC or the WWE. But The UFC understands, and we discovered this obviously during the pandemic when people weren't able to travel, that there's tremendous value to the global audience, right? And the Olympia is unique in that there is an insatiable appetite for people to see the Olympia. And we also understand the responsibility that we have to the economic model of the Olympia. You mentioned it yourself. We have to fly in 400 athletes. We have to put up these athletes in hotels. We have to give millions of dollars in prize money. We have to pay the bills that come with executing a full-blown event in Las Vegas. It is an expensive event, and it gets rapidly more expensive with each passing year as the cost of travel increases, as the cost of production increases. So we do, and keep in mind also that when people travel to the Olympia, they're making a multi-thousand-dollar commitment to being a part of the Olympia and to being there. So if somebody has to pay $70 to watch it on pay-per-view, well, we understand that everybody wants something for free. But we also know that we have a product that is valuable and that people are willing to pay for. Just the same way that when UFC 314, 315, 316, 317, so on and so forth took place, those were presented via pay-per-view. However, with that said, we've had a lot of internal conversations. You are correct. There are other models out there that enable people to watch it without having to pay. And as those trends are beginning to take shape, as also the live event business, Netflix and Amazon Video, Prime Video, they're getting into the live event business, which has created opportunities for all live events. So you're going to see that, but understand that the reason why we put on pay-per-view is because we want to make sure we can continue to support the economic realities of our event. And because of the demand that comes with the Olympia, we are in a position where we feel that it is economically sound for us to continue doing that. But not much longer because there are things, you're right, the model has shifted. So when we started doing pay-per-view, we started it in an environment where we had to, especially during those years during COVID when we had no choice, right? People could not get on airplanes, they couldn't travel. So for 2 or 3 years, we had to go this route just so we could support what we were trying to put on production wise. But you are correct. As the world has changed and as there's different outlets available, we are exploring all of those. And I would imagine that in due time, we will move back to that. I know that people are always going to celebrate an event that's available for free. I mean, we get that. We would love to give everything away for free. Now, we also give a lot for free. When you come to the Olympia, you don't pay an admission to attend to meet the Olympians. You don't pay for most of the Olympia experience. You go to the press conference for free. You go to the meet the Olympians for free. You go to the seminar after the event. There's so many elements of the Olympia experience that are incredibly fan friendly, right? But the pay-per-view model was created a few years ago. And yes, we are always exploring ways to make sure as many people can watch the event as possible. And that's a big thing. And that's what I understand. I recognize that if it's for free, that more people can watch. We fully understand this reality, and it is something we are committed towards. But what makes the Olympia different is the Olympia has tremendous demand to watch these showdowns that involve the best of the best. The historic consequence of the Olympia is something that, from a business standpoint, we understand that it is valuable for people to want to see it. And we're very fortunate that there is a demand for people to want to pay to watch the event. But I know topics like this will never play well for me. They'll never play well for Jake because anytime anybody is asked to pay for something that they feel like somebody else is giving them for free, it's never going to be a popular one. And we embrace that. We understand that. And it doesn't fall on deaf ears. We understand the need to revisit all opportunities and ways for people to see the show without having to pay $1 for it. And nobody wants that more than me. Look, I work hard on this event. I want as many people to see the things that we're doing as possible. So we all have the same horse in the race. We all share that objective. But if you're wondering why pay-per-view exists, that's the reason. And it's definitely a direction that we are exploring aggressively. But we're not going to do it knee jerk. We're not going to do it. We're not going to do it in a way where we are responding to. We're going to do it prudently. We're going to do it in a manner where we know from a business of what we're doing, it makes sense. I think a lot of things that happen in this industry are done in a very knee-jerk fashion. And it's something that people, they just kind of recklessly make decisions and they do things in an environment that they want to just have some clickbait. They want to feel good about themselves for a couple days. They want to be popular for a minute. They want people to say nice things about them. But unfortunately, in the business environment of what we do, we have to be prudent and thorough about some of these choices to make sure that we can. I mean, you started this conversation by asking when can we get to the $1 million prize threshold for first place? You can't champion for that if we're not going to monetize the global interest around the world. So, but I feel you and I appreciate what you're saying, and it's definitely something we're looking at.
I think for my side of a streaming service, it's more of the fact that we always hope that bodybuilding can access another audience. And we know, for for Netflix, it has over 250 million users. Now, of course, I am completely unaware of the financial mechanics of what included in like a deal
Yes.
with that. We see WWE left Peacock to go over to Netflix. UFC's contract has ended with ESPN. We're waiting to see what maybe service they go by. The Zone is blown up, controlling boxing. So yeah, for me, it was always looking at okay, well, streaming service, what additional audience in different geographical locations would that bring more eyeballs to the sport? And does that then become something more lucrative to sponsors, which of course you alluded to in previous interviews on looking to get more mainstream sponsors involved in the sport as you aim to make to grow bodybuilding, grow the Olympia?
To answer your question, 100% yes. Anything that we can do to make it easier for more people to watch helps us grow the sport. We just have to find the right deal, the right relationship, the right way to do it. And there are deals. And if it takes us an extra year to get there, it's going to be because it's the right way to do it, a way that's going to create the best opportunity for fans, the elevated status for the sport. There are ways that we can construct deals that will actually elevate the perception of our overall community. It will also introduce the sport to people that might not have otherwise followed it. So there's a lot of elements that we consider when we pick the right way to do it. It's not just a, hey, turn off the switch, give it away for free, find a sponsor and be done with it. That's a low level way of thinking. We're trying to do something that's going to elevate the sport. It's going to create a more commercialized opportunity so that the athletes can benefit from those opportunities. And also, just from the standpoint of the way our sport is received and perceived by the public, we want to make sure we pick the right deal. And that's something that we really tried to do. I know Jim and Tyler in Pittsburgh, the same thing. There's a lot of things that are available. You'd be amazed by the low-hanging fruit that's available that we could take right now from certain opportunities that want to throw money in and they want to do things. And we have to stop and take a step back and say, okay, that might feel good for 5 minutes. That might feel good for a week. But here's the ramifications of that in the years to come. That's not going to play well for a variety of reasons. So we always have to measure the big picture of what we're trying to do. And I can tell you this, when we do announce a deal of that nature, it's going to be the one that impacts all of us in a really good way, not just economically, but in how you feel about your participation in this industry. And we're all going to win from it. And it's just a matter of finding the right way to do it.
Perfect. Well, look, before I wrap up, I do have a little quick fire questions because I did throw this to the public and I'm going to just take some questions. We'll do really quick fire. These are some of the questions. These are some questions came up from the BTS audience that they wanted to ask you. You ready for it, Dan?
Let's go.
All right. Who is, in your eyes, the men's physique GOAT?
I'll just say this. I've never seen a physique like Jeremy's before. That physique just looked different, right? I don't espouse myself to be a guru or an aficionado of that division, but I remember when Jeremy was winning, it was a level of three-dimensional presentation that I had never seen before. Much like the way we view Phil, right? It's just something different, and you almost can't explain it or quantify it. But that, from a physique standpoint, in his prime, was hard to beat. But I sure am loving what Ryan is doing as our champion now. I am just such a fan of Ryan Terry, and because there's more to it than just the physique, and I really love what Ryan represents in that division. So, in the standpoint of the overall element of being something that the division can be proud of, Ryan Terry is hard to beat.
I'm just going to expand this one, man. Who is the open GOAT?
Okay. So the open goat. Now, if you were to ask me, and you said you were going to do rapid fire, I am not qualified for anything rapid fire because I talk a lot. So forgive me for that.
Go for it.
But I was in Starbucks the other day, and some kid came up to me and started talking about bodybuilding and asked me who my favorite was. So I'm going to tell you what I told him. Now, we all know that, what Arnold represents, right? Arnold did so much for the sport, and they're still doing so much. And we also know the popularity of guys like Lee Haney and Jay Cutler, two gentlemen that I have tremendous respect for. But there's somebody who right now, if you were to ask me who my favorite of the 19 Olympias, I'm going to give you a name that's even going to surprise him when I say this. I'm a believer. I tend to lean towards the champions who do their part to show the world that there's so much more to being a champion than just what you see, than just sets and reps, than just quarter turns, than just macros, than just what it looks like to hoist the sand out. I have become very partial. As I've been on this growth crusade for the industry, I've been on this sense of appreciation for the champions who take opportunities to show fans what it means to live this lifestyle. The things that happen within this lifestyle that can impact anybody, regardless of what you're doing and wherever you're at in life. The champions who take the time to hone their message in a way that people beyond the confines of the bodybuilding world can connect with. So with that, I'm going to drop the name Phil Heath.
Oh, yeah.
Phil Heath has taken the time in his post-championship life to hone a message that makes him in demand by companies and groups around the world to tell stories about how the things that he learned as a bodybuilder can make them more successful in whatever they do. Phil Heath produced one of the best bodybuilding documentaries I've ever seen.
That was great. Yeah.
That film was well done.
Mhm.
And the work that Phil is doing, I respect what everybody else is doing. If you want to do a podcast and talk about who was in the second call out of the New York Pro, go for it. Do your thing. I love that. That's fine too. That's important. But to me, the highest level of being a champion is connecting in ways that go beyond that. And Phil, I know you're going to eventually see this. I'm so proud of you, Phil, for what you're doing to make your message translatable, to make people who do anything, whether they are CEOs of companies, whether they are electricians, whether they are school teachers, whether they are weekend warriors in the gym. Phil's message is connecting with those people. I've seen it firsthand. I see the response he gets from being vulnerable enough to tell those stories. So for me, what Phil is doing is far more valuable than what anyone else is doing right now.
But when you did your Olympia tour, I was with Giles Tiger, who has their Olympia tour around the world. And the one we did with Phil Heath, the way he connects with people, Suki, Phil Heath, in real life, when I were in the UK for that tour, it's something else.
It's
He
different.
gets people to cry and emotions, and he speaks beyond bodybuilding. And I understand why you see him as the greatest, Dan.
Yeah, I do. Now, greatest is a word that you can use or not, but I just think right now
Goat.
he's valuable. He's important to what we're all trying to grow. When I say we all, I mean you guys, I mean me, our team, Jake, Jim, Tyler, everybody. What we're all trying to do, promoters around the world, what we're all trying to do, the work and the way Phil is going about it is infinitely more valuable than what anybody else is doing right now in that division.
Hmm.
Yeah, in that division.
Well, you mentioned Phil Heath because the next question kind of links to it. And that one is, which Open Pro do you think has the best chance to challenge Phil Heath's Olympia record?
None of them. There's none of them. I don't think we're in that place anymore. I really don't. I think those are generational scenarios. The Ronnie Coleman physique, the Phil Heath physique, the Arnold Schwarzenegger physique at that time. Those are generational things that are dropped from another planet and they land on Earth and they are capable of things that are so far separated from the next best person who does that thing. Um, and in this case, I just don't see it right now. Um, so to throw out a name would be silly. I would have thought that maybe Derek would have a chance to have a run just because of his age and where he's at in his evolution. It wouldn't have surprised. But even if Derek had won, or if he still manages to win 4 or 5 in a row, it won't be dominant the way Phil did it. So no, I don't think anybody has a chance in this current crop. And you know what? I love that. I love that because there's nothing better than showing up at an Olympia, at an event anywhere in the world, and wondering who's going to win and having everything feel possible. And I think that's sort of the thing that makes life great. You want to wake up every day and start your day with anything's possible. And when you come to the Olympia this year, let me tell you something, anything is possible with these lineups and with where we're at. So um, when that person arrives, I'll be the first to point it out, but I don't think we have that guy right now.
Next one, I'm not sure how much of a say you have in this, but this question comes from an actual IFBB Pro Classic Physique who's competed at the Olympia. And he's asking, will there be a time where Classic Physique have the same amount of time open bodybuilders have for a routine? So currently open has 3 minutes, Classic Physique have 2 minutes.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. There's the people who make those choices. Keep in mind, the Olympia is sanctioned by the IFBB Pro League, and we live within the framework of what the Pro League wants to
Yeah.
see on that level. So I defer to those guys. I mean, we put on a production around the confines of an IFBB Pro sanctioned event, but I don't really speak on those things. I mean, my first thought is always, can we figure out a way to shorten the show a little bit, right? But I also don't want to do it at the expense of athletes and fans being able to see their favorites. So I wouldn't even have a response to that at this point.
Another one is now, I know we spoke about prize money, and this one's come about 4 times, so I'm gonna have to ask it.
Okay.
And it's in regards to the men's physique division. All four are asking, do you feel the men's physique division will get a larger prize money this year?
I'll only say this. The trend is to continue to increase prize money. So my expectation without committing, because at the end of the day, right, this is Jake's checkbook, right? So I'm always very respectful to how the economics of the event plays, sponsor support, ticket sales, all these things enter into those decisions as to, because, we're all trying to do everything we can to bring as much revenue into the event so that we can allow the athletes to enjoy the fruits of that economic impact. So I would imagine that as long as we continue to grow at the pace we have been growing year in and year out, the answer is yes, you will see that, but it's too early in the year to start talking about how it's going to land. But the best thing is right now it's looking pretty good, and the interest in the event has been off the charts. Our VIP ticket sales went on sale a few days back, and probably by the end of this week they'll be gone. So if this happens to air in the next couple days, and you are a viewer of this program and you're thinking about getting VIP tickets, do it because they'll be gone in a couple days and there's nothing we can do about it. But yeah, as far as prize money goes, the objective is always to increase, and I hope we can.
A final question. Once again, not specific to Olympia, but I think they're very keen to hear your opinion on the subject. Do you
Right.
think we'll see a new division below men's physique in 2026?
No, I don't. But again, you're just asking for an opinion on
Yeah.
this. It's not my job to create new divisions. It's not my job to build a timeline for the creation of new divisions. But at this point, I don't see anything along those lines occurring. I haven't heard anything. I know that this new division on the women's side has gotten people talking about that. Um, and I know that when a new division is created, it's created built on demand, right? It's built on where the demand is in terms of the marketplace. Are there certain physique types that are not given opportunities to showcase at this level? And if it makes sense, they explore it and they follow it and they do a lot of research into its viability. So I would imagine if something ever came up where it made sense, and it showed respect to the other divisions and it created opportunities to people to get into the gym and train and have something to train for, my guess is that you could see it, but at this point, I have no information that it's coming.
The rest of the questions were pretty much covering everything we always spoke about. So look, I've taken way too much of your time, Dan. But I want to say this. I love storylines. I love narratives. And this year's Olympia has got everything. Jeremy's back. Samson has to go back and face Derek. Hardy's will be there. Nick Walker, will he be at the Olympia? Bikini, 5 Olympia champions. Wellness, we just saw the Olympia champion get beaten in the Arnold's. Figure, we'll see a new figure champion. We'll see a new classic physique champion. So many storylines like this must surely make your role so much easier when everyone's invested in these narratives leading to the Olympia 2025.
Yeah, but I will also take this as an opportunity to remind everyone that while all of that is true, and it certainly makes life easier from a promotion of the stage production, um, there's so much more that goes on around the Olympia that I know that within the focus of the things that you follow and that your viewers follow, those are the stories, right? But when we put on the Olympia, there's a commitment to so many other corners of longevity and anti-aging and wellness. We have a full-blown Olympia pool party at Resorts World that is
Yeah.
one of the biggest pool parties in Vegas, and it's become part of the Olympia experience. We put on elements and things that we do within our expo that are helping us to evolve that part of our event. The expo has been something that we've really worked on because for many years, the Olympia, when you would think of the Olympia, you would think of Mr. Olympia, you think of a bodybuilding competition. And we've really worked hard to evolve and grow our expos. So it can be something that can be one of the top expos in the world. And we still have a ways to go. We're still continuing to work towards that. There are expos out there that we envy, that continue to grow and we try to draw from. But we understand that as the Olympia, we serve as the central artery of the global fitness industry where it all kind of comes together every year in Vegas. So well, yes, you are correct. Those divisions are going to sell a lot of tickets and they're going to result in us selling out really fast once again. And we're very grateful for that. But it doesn't occupy as much of our focus as you might think, because really what we're trying to do is we're trying to build that overall experience that when people come out, they connect to many different elements of the physique transformational journey and fitness and staying in shape and learning about the new trends and technologies, being inspired, being motivated, going back home and being inspired to train at a different level and feeling like you're connected to an energy source and all that sort of thing. So that's where a lot of the focus comes. I know you mentioned at the top of this interview, AJ, when you were doing the intro, the video that we just put out that promoted the entire Olympia. Sometimes I don't think we do a good enough job sometimes of letting people know all the things that go on during the Olympia. And sometimes we make life harder on ourselves by not doing that. So we created this video, which was a true showcase of the
Great.
entire Olympia week. And AJ, it sounds like you liked it.
Oh, it was. I shared it on my platform, front page, obviously, on my Instagram, and
Yeah.
that was just beautiful. And I just want to say, before you probably have to go, is that I followed you since you did your thing with Bob Chick. I used to hear it. I have to download it. You know the
You want to see something?
yeah,
What's he gonna show?
So this is in my office. So I try to remember like all the stuff that we've done, right? So
yeah.
this is the promotional, I don't know if this is in focus or not, I'm not sure, but this is the
Yeah.
promotional poster for the
Oh,
first episode of Pro Bodybuilding Weekly. And it's got Jay Keller on it. It says talk radio for bodybuilding fans has arrived. It's got, of course, Bob and I hosted it. That's Monica Brandt. That's Sean Ray. That's Durham Charles. And that's all part of that's all part of the journey. And I loved that part of my life in this industry because what it did was it planted a seed that always makes me appreciate what's important to the person who's buying a ticket, what's important to the media. Um, I did what you guys do right now for a long time.
Mm.
And I know how hard it is to lock down interviews. How hard. Now, I did it at a time where social media was not what it is today, obviously. So our efforts to create audiences were very different and more challenging than you guys. You guys can put something out and bang, it becomes viral. But it's it's not lost on me the sometimes thankless journey of doing what you do. You get up every day and you work hard to promote the sport, and you guys talk about bodybuilding and you love it and you go to the shows. And I know that it's not easy. I know that showing up at events and feeling like sometimes, it's not really set up for you to succeed or to be there. I know what that feels like. So I respect what you guys go through. I know that when I got the job 6 or 7 years ago, I know I got all the calls from, all my media colleagues that were so happy that I got the job because they felt like there was finally somebody in that position that understood what it's like to be media, to cover the sport. And we've really tried to embrace that because, like I said, I've been there and I've done that. So, but I'm glad that you were a supporter of that show. We did it for like 12 years. And the first episode was in June of 2005. I'll give you some context. On that episode, our guest, the first ever episode on June 2005, Dexter Jackson came on that episode to tell us that he's not going to be competing in that year's Olympia.
Mm.
He didn't have an Instagram account to do that on. There wasn't a YouTube channel to do that on. He needed us to
Mm.
get that message out there. And we did it, and that's where the world was then. And when you think to where it was then to where it is now, where they all have their own media that they control, they don't need us, they don't need you the way that they used to. So it has shifted tremendously, but I love it, and I'm very excited to for what the future holds. We are currently in the final stages of production on a movie that is going to be released in a few months, and it's going to tell the story of the Olympia, the global impact that the Olympia has around the world. It is a very high-end production. We're very proud of it. We're working with some incredibly talented people to make this film. And it's not only going to tell the story about what the Olympia means to people around the world, but it's also going to tell the story of our production of what was the 60th Olympia. And I think you guys are going to be real proud of it. You're going to enjoy it. I think it's going to be a great celebration for how far the sport has come. So that is something to look forward to. And there's a lot of stuff coming up this year. And I know you guys will be paying attention every step of the way.
AJ, are you gonna be at this year's Olympia?
Yes, I am actually.
I'm gonna move heaven and earth because, of course, I have a full-time role. This is purely like a side project. I'm gonna try everything to do, try and get to my first ever Olympia this year. So I'm really gonna try and push for it,
Brilliant.
Dan. But
Well, we're looking forward to that, and thanks for having me on today. Keep doing what you're doing, and keep spreading the positive message. We appreciate it.
appreciate it, Dan. You take care.
Now, you too.